Hello and welcome back to Branded. I'm your host, Sarah, and today I want to talk about what we actually rebuild together. And when I say we, I mean me and my clients. It could potentially mean you as well, right? But I want to talk about what that rebuild sort of stage looks like and what actually happens when we're at it. So here's something kind of crazy, right? The way what you start in your business is not always what you end up doing, right? I came to actually recognize that one of the primary things I do with my clients is I help them rebuild parts of their business. And this wasn't actually part of my business model to, when I first started out. But over time, what I started to recognize was that beautifully branded businesses was only a small part of creating a successful and sustainable business. So, in today's episode, when I say rebuild, I am not talking about starting over or redesigning things for the sake of redesigning them. Because when my clients refer someone to me, the business is usually already working for this person, right? They have clients coming in, they have revenue happening, nothing is collapsing. So from the outside, it looks successful, but behind the scenes, there's usually a quiet sort of level of supervision happening that the founder does not want to have to do anymore. And that supervision is what we rebuild. The question isn't whether the business is working, right? Because you can see the business is working. It just maybe isn't as clean and tight as it should be. So the real question becomes if you stepped away from your business for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, would you feel super calm? Or would part of your brain be constantly monitoring what's going on? Or even worse, would your business just pause altogether and absolutely nothing happens? Would you be thinking things like, oh gosh, I got to check that sales page. I need to make sure that automation went off. I have to update that email sequence. I have to confirm that that link in bio still works. All of that mental load that you're putting on yourself, that mental supervision, that's a signal. That's a red flag that nothing is broken, but the business still depends on you way more than it should. And that is incredibly common in businesses that grow quickly. Super, super common. You built what you needed when you needed it, right? A sales page here, an automation there. You've got an onboarding process that has sort of evolved over time. So nothing is wrong with any of the decisions that you're making because they got the business where it is today. But growth will always expose structure every single time. And when that happens, the business starts asking for refinement. Like it will inevitably be asking for those little systems that are in place that help remove you from the process. This is the stage that I work in with so many of my clients. It's not the stage where they're building out their very first offer. It's the stage where their business is working, but it hasn't been rebuilt to match the level that they're operating at. So when I say we rebuild it, here's what this actually means. First, we rebuild parts of your website that you've outgrown, not aesthetically, which of course that's part of it. If you have new brand, colors, fonts, imagery, whatever, that's part of it. But I'm talking about structurally. Most founders, they don't have a bad website, right? It's there, it does the work, but it's so layered. Like layered as in months and years of layering has been happening and no real refinement has gone on yet. So maybe the homepage was written for a version of your business that existed 2 years ago. That happens. The sales page, sure, it technically converts, but you really hesitate to send people to it because something about it feels unfinished. That happens a lot. Every launch, you're finding yourself adjusting the same shit over and over and over again, right? You're rewriting something, you're moving stuff around, you're clarifying something that should already be clear. You're like, how many times can I say this? So it's not a copy issue. It's a structural issue. So we rebuild those pages of your website so they hold up without constant adjustment. And when those pages are done, you don't feel the need to revisit them constantly. You don't feel the need every time you're launching to go in and tweak things and make adjustments. They simply work. The second thing we rebuild is your email structure. And this, I'm not talking about just like a newsletter, which that happens. I have some clients which are like, I just want a newsletter. Awesome. As they build their business, there will be much more involved to their email marketing. But I'm not talking about just a newsletter. I'm talking about operational sequences that are actually running the business. An onboarding sequence, a nurture flow, a follow up that moves somebody from simply being interested into making a decision to buy from you. In a lot of businesses, especially established ones, these email sequences, they usually exist in some degree, right? But the problem is you don't fully trust them. So you're constantly double checking things, rereading them, or instead, because you don't trust it, you just decide, I'm just going to manually send out some emails. I'm just going to type some shit up that's on the top of my head. Okay, yeah, I repeated this on the last one. And you keep doing that. You keep manually doing that kind of work. You're adjusting stuff mid-launch because, the sequence doesn't match the offer anymore. None of these things are like super duper dramatic. And that's why it can be so simple to avoid. The problem, though, is that they create a sort of low level, quiet, operational supervision. And that supervision is a constant hum in the back of your mind. Like you never fucking forget it. Your business doesn't let you forget it until you give it the attention it needs. So we rebuild those sequences to deliver exactly what they're supposed to, consistently, predictably, without you having to think about it. The third thing that we usually rebuild is automations that move your business forward. This is where that sense of reliance on you often is hiding, where maybe there's payment confirmations that have to go out, or CRM updates, or even just internal notifications for yourself or your team. When someone's like purchasing an offer, a lot of these things are supposed to happen automatically. But in many businesses, the founder is still quietly checking all of these steps or doing them manually. Did they get access? Did the CRM, did they get tagged inside of the CRM? Is the onboarding actually going? You're manually checking your systems, which means they're not finished. So we rebuild those processes so the infrastructure actually runs like it's supposed to. Someone buys, they get the access they need, they get tagged in the CRM, you get notified, and that's it. That's the world. That's the thing. You're informed instead of having to constantly intervene. And this is where something very important happens. That mental load of the business, it starts to sort of slowly dissipate and just sort of disappear because rebuilding isn't about adding more tools to your tool belt. It's about removing that feeling of reliance, that feeling of operational supervision. If you're the reminder system, that's a rebuild point. If you're the manual override, that's a rebuild point. If you're the safety net, making sure everything runs correctly, that's a rebuild point. And it doesn't mean that you built anything in your business wrong. It means the business grew and the infrastructure hasn't been rebuilt yet. That's it. And that's totally normal. But ignoring it, it does not make it easier. It means that you just get to keep carrying it until maybe you can't anymore. So don't assume that you need more strategy if you're feeling this way. When things are feeling heavy, don't assume you need more content, more visibility, more marketing. Often, the real shift is not in that kind of work, it's in refinement. It's bringing the infrastructure up to the level that your business is already operating at. Because when that happens, something very different starts to happen inside of your business. Things actually get quiet, which might feel weird at first, right? They're not slow. Like you're still getting clients, everything's still working, but things are quieter than usual. And quiet can take some getting used to. So it's not slow, it's simply quiet. That hum has sort of disappeared, right? You're not thinking about onboarding constantly. You're not checking automations. You're not manually reviewing what might be falling through the cracks. Your business is simply running. Oh, doesn't that feel good? And that's the stage that most established founders crave. When someone is saying, like, I want a successful business, I guarantee they are not talking about working 8 days a week, 24 hours a day. Like, they're talking about running a business where they can take a day off and breathe, not freak out, right? So, this is the stage that established owners crave. Not more growth, but feeling solid, feeling refined, feeling like it was designed on purpose. So when I say we rebuild it, that's what I mean. We rebuild the parts of your business that depend on you to run properly. And once those pieces are rebuilt, you're no longer the glue holding everything together. You're simply the person that gets to lead the business, which is a very different role. So step into it. The water's warm. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review. Send it to a friend that maybe is feeling that heaviness in their business right now and they're wondering what it really takes to rebuild some parts of their infrastructure. It isn't as complicated as maybe they think. I hope you have a great week. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.